You've spent really, I think it's fair to say, your entire career essentially dealing with issues such as this in the Pentagon and outside the Pentagon. What have we provided so far that's made a difference, and what do we need to provide?
Well, thank you, David. First of all, great to be with you. So, look, we, being the United States and many of its allies, provide a number of weapon systems and materiel for the Ukrainians. I think the most pronounced early on were the Stingers, the anti aircraft weapons, and the Javelin anti tank weapons. And then most recently, over the past couple months, it would be HIMARS, which are the long range precision artillery systems that have really made a difference with regard to providing what we call counter battery fire to suppress Russian artillery. At this point, and we should talk about the offensive that's underway. The Ukrainians are really showing that they can do maneuver warfare and they can take the fight to the Russians, which is remarkable at both the tactical level all the way up through the strategic level. I think going forward, we not only have to continue to provide artillery ammunition, which the minister spoke to, but also long range artillery. But we have to think about how we provide them the means to have air cover and air support, whether it's fixed wing aircraft or helicopters, rotary winged aircraft.
These are very sophisticated weapon systems. When we first started supplying them, some people raised questions whether Ukrainians would be able to use them effectively. Have they surprised you in how effective they are?
Well, they've been extremely effective in a short amount of time for training, and a lot of credit goes to the United States trainers and others for doing that. And I visited Lviv in 2018, I think, as Secretary of the Army, and watched our people on the ground train the Ukrainians. They're quick studies, they're eager, and they want to get into the fight. So we need to help them out. And look, going back in time, I said 4 months ago at this point, we should have transferred MiG aircraft to them and begun training their pilots, because chances are they could be flying those aircraft right now to support their offensive.
Well, let's talk about that, because it was discussed a while ago, a few months ago. There was some concern, as I understand it, that we might provoke the Russians into taking more aggressive action. Is that still a relevant concern?
We can't be so afraid of what the Russians will do or will not do. We had these discussions on any number of things, whether or not we should sanction them before they attacked Ukraine on February 24th of this year. We had the concerns about admitting Sweden and Finland to the alliance. And look, that happened. And in fact, Putin said it was no big deal. So I don't think we should take too much into Putin's concerns. We should do what's right, support the Ukrainians. And look, they can win this war. And that would be a very good outcome for a number of reasons, not just between Ukraine and Russia, but for the fact that Western liberal democracies are standing up to the autocracies of the world. Very, very important.
So right now, even the Kremlin admits that Russian troops are in retreat, apparently, in the Northeast. It's hard to know exactly how far, how fast. At the same time, President Putin does not have a great track record of backing down. It's entirely possible he will double down instead. What should we be prepared for?
Yeah, look, that's a fair assessment, first of all. But talk about the Ukrainian assault. They've recaptured over 1,100 square miles in a matter of days. And along the lines, not just recaptured territory, but based on reports from the front, the Russians have abandoned weapons and equipment and vehicles all along the way. The Ukrainians will pick that up. That will add to their own momentum and capability. So I think the question is, though, how will Putin react, respond? What's happening in his country? We see some signs of dissent. But we should watch very carefully about what they may try and do. They're going to have to draw a line, hold a line somewhere, and defend, and I assume pursue a counteroffensive. But they're hurting when it comes to resupplying their forces with weapons, equipment, and people, personnel. That's why there's been this talk in the air about maybe Putin reconstituting a draft sometime soon. So they face a lot of strategic challenges, and I think Ukraine has a lot of strategic opportunities if the West continues to support them.
Mr. Secretary, as Secretary of Defense, you had to think about the global situation. Everything seems to be connected to everything else. Give us your sense of how this may be connected to the situation right now with China and specifically with Taiwan.
Oh, well, look, China's definitely watching it. In some ways, Ukraine is Russia's version of Taiwan for China. And I think both sides are watching very closely. I was in Taipei a couple months ago, just before Speaker Pelosi arrived there. I spoke with President Tsai. They are watching it. They're taking lessons learned. I recommended a number of things they should do, from increasing their defense budget to buying many of the weapons that the Ukrainians are using today so effectively against the Russians. That's a lesson they need to be learned. But strategically, China needs to see the West standing up to unwarranted, unlawful Russian aggression. That'll send the signals to them that we're not going to back down if they start rattling their saber a little bit. against Taipei.
The issue, obviously, in Ukraine is invasion, a ground invasion. Is that the biggest threat that Taiwan faces? Because doesn't China have the possibility of blockade, where they could accomplish an awful lot of what they want to accomplish without invading?
Yeah, look, an amphibious assault is a hard thing, particularly when you're crossing the 100-mile Taiwan Strait and you're facing a fortified defense. But no, I think a blockade using air and missile defenses, and much like what they did in their so-called exercises in August, might be the first step. And that makes it a little bit more complicated for the West to respond. How do you deal with that? And do you run the blockades? Because look, Taiwan is an island, so at some point they face running out of material, foodstuffs, etc. That's why I recommended one of their things be to start stockpiling all the things they need to endure a long-term siege, if you will, by China.
Might it affect what weaponry we provide? You say they should be spending more money on defense, but it also matters what it went for. Is it possible we
Yeah.
should be, for example, supplying them with warships?
I think at best it would be submarines, but look, in a head-to-head fight, the Taiwanese can't beat the Chinese. But in an asymmetric fight where small teams of Taiwanese military are taking on the Chinese, much like you see with Ukraine now, that would be very effective. So think about Harpoon anti-ship missiles or mines to take out any type of amphibious assault, and then think about anti-aircraft missiles, shoulder-fired or anti-tank missiles. Those things can go a long way, much less expensive, and you can buy far more of them to outfit, if you will, not just your military, but in the case of Taiwan, you need to arm the population. China shouldn't face 230, 280,000 Taiwanese. It should face 23 million.